Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We continue our conversation now with the only announced candidate for governor, Phil Murphy, Democratic candidate. We should point out, when is the primary? I'm sure you know, June 6th?
June 6th, 2017, and the general election is in November of 2017.
Let's talk about some of the major problems. We have a problem right now with the gas tax. I should point out that we're taping this a couple of weeks early because of the convention, so who knows what could happen. But I want to make sure that people realize you're talking about the gas tax previous to when this airs, just in case something happens. 23 cents, is that enough?
I'm not sure I know enough to know if it's enough, but it's in the range that I've been talking about. I've been sort of in the 15 to 25 cent range probably for 2 years now. And I'm not thrilled at the prospect of another regressive tax, a tax that takes it out of the hides of working families who get in the car every day to drive to work. That's not something that you look for, but we're in an extraordinary crisis. You know, the Transportation Trust Fund started under Governor Kane in 1984. It was a pay-as-you-go model. That tax, the original gas tax, contributed about 78 cents on the dollar, and then debt and interest was 22 cents. That's a pretty sensible split. Thanks to this governor's inattention and frankly the inattention of a lot of leadership over the past 30 years, it's now 97 cents interest and debt repayment and 3 cents of equity. It's about to go bankrupt. Infrastructure is one of the core essential assets of this state. We got to figure this out.
A lot of people have been robbing the Transportation Trust Fund, not just Republicans, but Republicans and Democratic governors. It's just a way to go. And now it's going to be depleted. We had Jennifer Beck, who I saw that you met as you were coming in. We had Jennifer Beck on the show, and she said, "Look, I was on the Finance Committee. We were short $1.1 billion. We found the money." She claims that this is a crisis so that the solution will be a raise in taxes. It's a manufactured crisis.
With respect to Senator Beck, who I've known a long time, I don't agree with that. Again, this is a twofer in my judgment in terms of the benefits. And we understand what the costs are. And by the way, let's try to find a way that gets at the folks who are going to pay this gas tax. Let's try to find a way to cushion this.
The sales tax coming down, do you agree with that?
Well, the problem with the sales tax coming down is that blows a huge hole in the side of the budget, and that's a huge number. It's one that I'm not sure we can afford at the moment. But I've been talking about increasing, for instance, the earned income tax credit from 30% of the federal level to 40% as an example. But the benefits of if you raise the gas tax today, you get a short-term benefit and a long-term benefit. The short-term one is you get folks working tomorrow, fixing our roads and our bridges and our rails, and we need that. They're in disrepair. Again, this governor's let it go way too long. The other benefit and the long-term benefit is you're investing or would be investing in one of the core essential assets of this state, infrastructure. You know, that's a strength of ours that is dear to New Jersey. It's almost unique to New Jersey given our location. So I think you get both that short and long-term benefit, which gets me to believe that we've got to find a way to do it.
But let's talk about school funding for a second, because it seems like it is an enigma of a problem. It seems like everybody talks about it and realizes that there's disproportionate funding for some districts and not for other districts for seemingly no rhyme or reason. Everybody wants to fix it, and yet it never gets fixed. Right. Do you have a solution?
Listen, I think what we should do, Larry, is to fund the formula that was arrived at, I think, at around 2008, just before the Great Recession and just before Governor Christie took office. So this formula, which sort of went from funding districts to money following the child, seems sensible to me. So if you've got a child who's got special factors, one parent and not two, English as a second language, free or reduced lunch as a measure of poverty level, special needs, special education needs. That kid needs and deserves, this is America, that kid deserves a different treatment than someone who doesn't have those particular attributes.
But that means the district has, if that child in a district that's underfunded, should money that's going to a district that is overfunded because of property taxes, should they get less state funds, and should it go to the district where that child you're talking about is?
I'd like to implement that formula, and I'd like to see how that plays out. What I do know is this: the governor's proposal to put the same price on the head of every kid in this state is dead wrong. and it divides this state, and he knows that. It divides it from certain communities against other communities. He would also lead you to believe that progress is not being made in these big, particularly in these big urban centers, which happen to be more often than not communities of color. And that's a particular sensitivity for me as I serve proudly on the National Board of the NAACP. So I believe this is a us against them divisive proposal. He knows exactly that's what it is. He knows it'll appeal to certain communities because the sticker price will go down dramatically, but kids in this state will suffer. It's not America. We need to fund the original formula.
Sir, thank you so much for coming in.
Great seeing you, Larry.
Really appreciate it. Phil Murphy, the Democratic candidate for governor, the only Democratic candidate, the only candidate for governor at this point. Thanks for coming in. I'm sure we'll see you again.